There are some laws that govern voltages and currents in a circuit. Okay. Now, as I said, I have not even put down what circuit it is. These are very general laws that apply to any circuit. Okay. You can think of them as basic properties of voltages and currents. Okay. Now, one of these that talks about currents says that if you have a number of branches, number of wires connected to a single point, such a point is known as a node. Okay, and these don't have to be just wires, there could be some elements. Right now we will not worry about what they are. Okay, now what this says is that if you measure currents flowing out of the node, okay, I will choose to measure the current in this direction. I call this I1, I2. That says I1 plus I2 plus I3 plus I4 equals 0. Okay. Now this has nothing to do with any particular circuit, but this is true for any circuit. Okay. And this, I think many of you already would know, this is known as Kirchhoff's current law. Okay. Now, briefly, could you tell me the conditions under which this is true? Is this always true under any circumstances, or are there some conditions? Okay, there are a number of responses. I will broadly group them into always true and for linear elements or circuits, and somebody said something about no resistance in the wires. And then somebody else said charge conservation. Or no charge accumulation and so on. Okay. Now, it turns out that, of course, this is not correct. If I mean, that's the reason I asked the question. Now, this is a kind of funny answer because I have not even put down what circuit it is, right? I already said that these are general properties of currents. It has absolutely nothing to do with what circuits we apply it to. Okay. So, this is something also important for a different reason. I think whoever answered these things are mixing up some different concepts. Linearity refers to voltage current relationships of different elements. Now, the Kirchhoff's current law that I am discussing here has nothing to do with what circuit it is. Okay, it's generally true of all circuits or with some conditions, as we'll see. And again, this also is something similar. It says no resistance in the wires. Again, it has absolutely nothing to do with that because you could have wires and you could have elements connected to it, which could be resistors. Okay, because if you said no resistance at all, then such a law or such a theorem would not be very useful. Okay, because it has to be useful for real circuits. Now, finally, we come to the main point, which is that it is charge is conserved. That is, charge is neither created nor destroyed. And more importantly, it's not just this that is important. There is no local charge accumulation. Okay, that is, you have currents flowing out of it, Now, if the sum is more than 0, that means that this charge was depleting from this point, and if the sum is less than 0, charge is getting accumulated at this point. Okay, neither of it is true. So charge is conserved, of course, and also charge is not accumulated locally in any point. Okay, so this is the reason why, this is the assumption under which Kirchhoff's current law is true. In fact, there are conditions where it is not true. If there is time, we can discuss those things later. But now, for a large number of circuits, this is true, and we can use Kirchhoff's current law safely. Okay. So that is true. Again, as I mentioned earlier, very useful analogy for thinking about currents is fluid flow. Okay. So if you have a pipe here, and then it branches off into two pipes, it's very obvious, I mean, even without analyzing, to most of you, intuitively obvious that if there is water flowing here, and then it will branch off into two, and let's say water flowing here at a rate of 10 liters per minute. Now, whatever the rates here are, I mean, this pipe could be big and this could be small and all of that. So this is flowing at some rate R1 and this is flowing at some rate R2. You know that R1 plus R2 equals 10 liters per minute. Okay. Or if I have to use the convention, for currents I took all the flow to be away from the node. So I can also take R1 liters per minute flowing that way, R2 liters per minute flowing this way, and this way it is minus 10 liters per minute. Okay, it's a slightly weird way of saying it, but a useful way when you talk about currents. I initially assumed that the flow is that way, but it turns out that the flow is from left to right, so that means from right to left minus 10 liters per minute are flowing. Okay, so minus 10 plus R1 plus R2 will be 0. Okay, this is something that you intuitively feel is true. Okay, even without knowing a great deal of fluid dynamics and so on. Okay, and why does this happen? If this was not the case, water would be accumulating here, or water would be drawn out of here. Okay, if we had a tank here into which water is accumulating, this need not be true. Okay, for instance, I could have water and then flowing into a tank, and then nothing coming out of it. Right, whatever is coming here is going into the tank. This is analogous to charge accumulation, and we assume that such a thing is not happening. As long as that's not happening, the Kirchhoff's current law is true. The sum of all the currents flowing out of a node, or equivalently, sum of all currents flowing into a node will be 0. Okay, a very useful thing, and in fact a necessary thing to solve for circuits.